This is A World Gone Mad. I'm Jeff Allen Wolfe. Welcome to the Friday edition, the part of the week where later in my podcast I bring you news from the edge of sanity and try to lighten the load a little before you head into your weekend. News from the edge of sanity, the kind of stories that make you pause mid-coffee and say, "You've got to be kidding me." But first, let's talk about the real news stories from the last 48 hours, which sometimes rival the bizarre ones. Okay, here we go. Friday, the Senate grilling of RFK Jr. went full meltdown with bipartisan sideshow energy. So volatile, even Kennedy's own party is checking the eject lever. On September 4th, Kennedy sat before the Senate Finance Committee and got every bit of the roast. Democrats called for his resignation, accused him of spreading vaccine misinformation, and warned that Kennedy's leadership is actively undermining public health. And that's just the start. Then the Republicans piled on too. Senator Bill Cassidy, Republican from Louisiana, and Senator John Barrasso, Republican from Wyoming, went after Kennedy for choking off vaccine access, packing advisory panels with skeptics, and cutting $500 million in mRNA vaccine contracts while gutting the CDC's leadership credibility. The hearing turned into one of the most combative Senate sessions all year. RFK Jr. pushed back hard, called senators dishonest and dismissive, shouting over them like it was some basement rant. But all that fury just solidified how dangerous he is to the department he's supposed to lead. Things got hotter when Susan Monterez, former CDC director fired just weeks earlier, ripped into Kennedy in an op-ed accusing him of politicizing science. She said putting ideology over data risks real lives. So where does that leave us? This hearing didn't just spotlight a controversial health secretary under fire. It revealed a health secretary tearing down the department he leads. Democrats demand Kennedy go. Republicans are warning he's dangerously incompetent. And even a growing number of GOP figures say he needs to be removed. Senate walls probably need to be lined with tinfoil fast. Whatever you thought about Kennedy before today's performance, erased whatever was left of his credibility. He spent more time defending conspiracy theories than vaccines. He dismantled science, and he embarrassed the role on a national stage. If this were a television show, the producers would have written Kennedy out by now. Instead, he's still in charge of health. All right, let's talk about our Department of Justice, the DOJ, because apparently they think they are auditioning for a reboot of House of Cards. Project Veritas dropped a sting video of Joseph Schnitt, an acting deputy chief at the DOJ, and what came out of his mouth was not exactly inspiring confidence. He was asked about the release of the Epstein files, and his response, which was caught on video, was jaw-dropping. He said, and I quote, "They'll redact every Republican or conservative person in those files, leave all of the liberal Democratic people in those files, and have a very slanted version of it come out." He actually said that out loud on tape. And if that was not enough, he also tossed in a little gem about Epstein's lady friend Maxwell, suggesting she was being offered something to keep her mouth shut. You cannot write satire that bleak. The man basically said justice is optional and silence is negotiable. Now the DOJ scrambled, of course. They rushed out the statement that this was only his personal opinion. They apologized. They distanced themselves like the guy was radioactive. But here's the one thing. Once you have someone in your shop casually saying, we are redacting Republicans while throwing Democrats to the wolves, all credibility is gone. You can apologize until the microphones melt down. The public trust just left the building. Think about it. Survivors of Epstein's abuse have been demanding transparency for years. They want names. They want accountability. They want the full, ugly list. Instead, what they keep getting is a magic trick. Now you see the records. Now you don't. Cut here, snip there, redact, redact, redact. And the man literally admitted the scissors came out depending on the party affiliations. This is not just corruption. This is arrogance. The kind of arrogance that assumes the American public is too dumb, too tired, or too distracted to notice. That justice is being handed out like coupons at a grocery store. One for you, none for you. Maxwell gets a mystery prize. Survivors get a redacted PDF. So where are we? The DOJ is trying to convince everyone they are serious about disclosure, while one of their own officials just blew the whole game on camera. You cannot walk that back. It is not toothpaste you squeeze back into the tube. The stink is out there, and it reeks. When the agency meant to defend the rule of law starts sounding like it's running opposition research instead of justice, you know the system is cracked. And when victims have to watch the government play blackout bingo with the truth, truth is not circling the drain. Truth has already been flushed. All right, let's move to the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein. Because if you thought Congress was going to ride in on a white horse and deliver justice, think again. Last week, the House Oversight Committee dumped 33,000 pages of so-called Epstein documents. Sounds huge, right? Sounds like disclosure, accountability, names, except no. Survivors tore through them and said it was recycled junk, old news, already public. A giant nothing burger disguised as a file dump. So now the survivors are saying, screw it. If the government apparently is going to redact everything, if the government won't give us the truth, we will build our own client list. I love it. Names, dates, hotels, flight logs, all the filth they know from first-hand experience. The Epstein survivors are stepping in to do the job Congress pretends it's doing. And let's just pause here. Victims of sexual abuse are now forced to become the investigators of their own abuse. This is not justice. That is abandonment. That is the government tossing a flashlight into a cave and saying, good luck, kids. Go find the monsters yourself. Think about the scale of this. Survivors already dragged through hell are about to crowdsource the accountability that the Department of Justice, the FBI, the Congress have fumbled for years. They're gathering names that everyone knows exist, but no one in power wants to put in writing. Meanwhile, politicians are holding press conferences, patting themselves on the back, waving around binders of redacted garbage, while actual work of truth-telling is being done by the very people who were victimized. That should make your blood boil. This is not some fringe conspiracy. This is survivors saying, enough. We will not wait. We will not let this be buried. We will not let the most powerful people in the world escape into the shadows because the government can't get its act together. So here we are. Congress playing bureaucratic theater, survivors playing detective, and the American people left wondering if the rule of law has any pulse left at all. When the Epstein survivors are the only ones still fighting for the truth, you know the system is not broken. The system is protecting itself. And that protection comes at the cost of justice. And after these 3 news stories, Wolfpack listeners, you deserve a break before your weekend. It's time for News from the Edge of Sanity, where the stories are still insane, but at least you don't need a stiff drink to get through them. All right, let's take a quick cultural detour. Different countries have different customs. Here in America, for example, we've got backyard barbecues in the summer. We've got Thanksgiving dinners where half the family argues over football and politics. We got Black Friday stampedes where people trample each other for half-price TVs. And we've got retail stores who set up their holiday displays 5 months in advance of the actual holiday. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. No, it's not. It's freaking summer. Can we still get the holiday of Halloween in before you put Christmas displays up, Walmart? Please? Now in Japan, they have a time-honored custom. Poisoning your relatives because you hate their snoring. Not really, but you're going to think it's the custom after this story. Because in Chiba Prefecture, an 18-year-old actually tried to kill his uncle over snoring. Not arguments about money, not a family feud, not some inheritance fight. Snoring. Loud, obnoxious, keep you up all night snoring. So what did this Japanese kid do? He didn't buy earplugs. He didn't move into another room. He went for the nuclear option. Literally slipped oleander, a toxic plant, into his uncle's miso soup. And yes, this is the same oleander that shows up in every crime show as do not touch, do not ingest. Uncle downs the miso soup, and thank God he survives. But when the police come knocking, the kid doesn't even play dumb, doesn't try to deny it. He flat out admits, I couldn't stand my uncle snoring. Imagine that interrogation room. Why did you attempt murder? Because Uncle Hiroshi sounds like a samurai swinging wildly with giant swords in the middle of the night. And here's the kicker. This wasn't a crime of passion in the heat of moment. This was premeditated. He had to find the oleander leaves, grind them up, stir them in the soup, all while thinking, yep, this is the solution to the snoring. Now I get it. Snoring is brutal. You've got sleep apnea, you shake the house, you make the dog cry. I get it. But there's a big leap between I can't sleep and I'm serving you poison ramen. This is the kind of story where you don't know whether to laugh, cry, or double check what's in your bowl of soup the next time if you happen to visit the families in Japan. The uncle survived, the teen was arrested, and the rest of us are left with the moral of the story. Buy a white noise machine before you reach for the toxic plants. All right, let's head over to Germany, where one teacher just put the phrase sick leave into a category no HR department could ever imagine. Now, I think all of us would agree, listeners, we've had, all taken sick leave before, a day, maybe a week. Some of us a couple of months for serious health problems. That's normal. That's life. But for years, this woman took sick leave. 16 freaking years. 16 years straight. She's not worked a single day in the classroom since George W. was still in office. And every month her paycheck kept coming in. Almost after 2 decades, the school system finally said enough is enough. They they ordered her to take a medical exam to prove she was actually sick all this time. And what did she do? She sued the school. Yes, she sued to block the exam that could show whether she was really unfit for work. The court took about 5 minutes to laugh that one out of the room. They tossed her case and ordered her to show up for the exam. On top of that, they stuck her with the legal costs. Think about this. 16 years of full salary without setting foot in front of a chalkboard in a classroom, right? She has basically turned sick leave into a career path. Forget tenure, forget retirement. Just call in sick once and ride the gravy train until the wheels fall off. And what does it say about the system? How does someone stay on the payroll for 16 years without anybody raising a red flag? At some point, it's not just one teacher scamming the system, it's the system scamming itself. So now she's finally being forced to prove she's actually ill, which means the greatest streak of calling in sick in modern history might finally come to an end. And the rest of us are left shaking our heads thinking, we've been doing this whole damn work thing completely wrong. All right, let's close with a library story. Most of us have checked out a book from the library. Most of us have forgotten to return one on time. Maybe a week late, maybe a month late. Well, here's what happened in San Antonio. A book was returned. The title was Your Child, His Family, and Friends. It was checked out by a woman who later moved to Mexico for work, and somewhere along the way the book got packed up, shoved aside, and forgotten. Things happen. Her family eventually found it in Oregon and decided to send it back to the library along with a note that said, Grandma will not be able to pay the late fee. Okay, stay with me, Wolfpack. Now here's the punchline. Franklin Roosevelt was president when that book went missing. World War II was still raging. It has been through the moon landing, Watergate, the Berlin Wall falling, the iPhone being invented. The book was due back in July of 1943, and it finally showed up in June 2025. It was 82 years overdue. And the late fee the family joked about, San Antonio had eliminated late fees back in 2021, so instead of owing millions, the library just said thank you and put the book on display. So the next time you panic because you forgot to return a book to the library for a couple of weeks, remember somebody out there set the record at 82 years. That is not overdue. That is a Guinness World Record in procrastination. That was your news from the Edge of Sanity, now a regular segment on Fridays. A friendly reminder that while the headlines are terrifying, the sidelines are completely unhinged. I'm not saying the world is unwell, but I just saw it wear socks in the rain, and then it walked around looking confused why its feet were squishing all day. Wolfpack listeners, drop me a line. Tell me why your GPS always thinks you live in a lake, or why your leftovers taste better at midnight than they ever do at dinner. Or just admit the last time you tried to pull on a push door going into someplace, you lost the battle, and then pretended you were just stretching. Whatever it is, bizarre, petty, or perfectly human, I want to hear it. Email me anytime, wolfpacktalks@gmail.com, or call my 24/7 voicemail toll-free line, 833-399-9653. And please leave a review on Apple or Spotify, because without your ratings, instead of doing my podcast, I'll be reduced to doing birthday party magic tricks for toddlers, pulling Kleenex out of my sleeve while a 3-year-old pelts me with Cheetos, and the kids start crying and yelling, "We want the clown instead!" This has been A World Gone Mad. I'm Jeff Allen Wolf. I'll be back Monday, because someone has to say the shit that no one else will. And apparently, that job's mine. Until then, Wolfpack listeners, stay skeptical, stay focused, and most of all, stay hopeful.